Claude Code lives natively on your machine. It has access to your file system. Out of the box, it's like a brain without hands. To actually let it build, you need the engine, you need the skills and plugins. But how do you actually add those skills in? You have to use a standard. What is MCP? Modex Context Protocol. It's a bridge. It lets Claude connect to external services, allowing you to extend its capabilities with external apps. Notebook LM, it's an unofficial skill that uses Python API that allows access to Notebook LM features inside AI agents like Claude Code. And the things that you can do, you can research automation, you can generate content, you can download and export the generated artifacts. And it has a complete Notebook LM coverage because you can pass multiple sources, you can chat, you can research using web and drive research agents, and you can share links, user permissions, and view level control. And the type of data that you can generate is audio and video, PDFs, images, JSON, Markdown, HTML, as well as the CSV. Building your own RAG, it's hard. You might get it working, but if you have a lot of data, it can take a lot of time to get it right, and it's not free. But Notebook LM, it's a RAG beast. It has a massive context window and it stays focused on your actual files. Inside Notebook LM, we have this flashcard notebook, and here we have a single source, which is a PDF book. And based on that book, we're going to try and generate some flashcards so that we can use those for learning. Inside Claude Code, Notebook LM is already installed and I have logged in. So all I have to do now is call this command. Once generated, you can view the generated and saved content, but we can also take a look at the UI, and these are the flashcards that we are getting. And I'm pretty sure you can customize those, but this is what you get out of the box. What if I told you that you can use Obsidian as a free orchestration layer that can transform Claude Code into a permanent, self-organized knowledge base for any of your projects? Most project documentation is a digital graveyard. Disconnected documents, README, random logs, and architecture notes all over the place. You could spend thousands building a complex enterprise RAG system to solve this. Or you could just use Obsidian. It acts as an ultimate file organizer for your technical stack, turning isolated files into a connected network of information for your project. It creates a perfect symbiotic loop for your project. You can add architecture diagrams, meeting notes, design decisions, and infrastructure ideas directly into the folder. Claude Code then automatically formats, tags, and links them within Obsidian. Because everything is perfectly organized, Claude performance actually improves over time. You aren't just coding, you're building a knowledge base for your specific projects that remembers every architectural decisions you made for months. The installation is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is go to the obsidian.md, download Obsidian for the operating system, and create the vault, which is a default location for all the files that you want to analyze. So now if we initialize the Claude Code inside the project directory with all the files, we can ask specific question about the project. Tell me about the system overview and architecture. So we have the response about the architecture layers, the 6 microservices that we might create, communication patterns, the key technical choices. And obviously we can spend some time to fine-tune this response, or we can ask further questions to go deeper into a specific area. Next, we have Excalidraw diagram skill. It lets Claude generate visual flowcharts and system architecture entirely through natural language. It contains majority of the shapes and groups. It can create one-to-many relationships, timelines for sequences, and it has built-in validation. So if there is a layout issue like overlapping text, it will fix them in a loop before delivering the final result. And you can also customize the colors by modifying this color MD file, and the installation is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is clone this repository and copy it inside the skills folder. So we can turn any messy nodes into a professional visuals, and you don't need to be an artist. All you have to do is ask. So in order to create a diagram, all we have to do is do /skill name followed by the command. And in this case, I'm going to be reading my office procedures document and create a flowchart showing 6 different steps a new employee takes from a day 1 to the first project. Hit enter and give it a minute. So this is the diagram that we have managed to create. It's pretty basic, but it has all 6 different steps that has been taken from the supplied PDF file. And the best part, on top of the actual picture, the Claude will also give you the editable file. So if you want to make any changes or additions in the future, like changing colors or maybe moving some boxes, all you have to do is open it inside excalidraw.com, go to the edit mode and make your changes. Fireclaw is a tool that reads messy website HTML and turns them into a clean, LLM-ready markdown data that is very easy to consume by Claude. A typical general web scraping will bring a lot of data that you're not really interested in. Just look at all that HTML. You have body, head, all the scripts attached, all the divs and main classes. They don't really bring back any data. All they do is just cater for the rendering on the page. So that will clutter your context and waste a lot of tokens. So if we scrape exactly the same page with Fireclaw, we get this markdown file that contains all the information about this web page without the extra HTML code. When it comes to web scraping, it has 4 main different functions. You can search for information on the fly, you can scrape a specified URL without subpages, you can crawl the entire website sitemap so we can understand the structure, or you can crawl a URL and all the subpages on that URL. The official plugin contains all the features that we have just talked about, and the installation is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is install it using npm, authenticate using the browser, and store the Fireclaw API key inside your environment variables. We now have an official Figma integration, which is available as part of the Claude Code official plugins. It allows you to access your design files, you can extract the existing components, and you can also create brand new components straight through the command line. And because one of the key features include extracting the design data like layout, typography, and colors from the actual Figma frames, that means it will understand your design choices, so any further design that you create in the future using the command line should be in line with your existing choices. So after logging in to my Figma account, I did ask it to create a homepage for websites that sell software services. And I didn't specify any design files because I just wanted to see what it can produce out of the box. And if we take a look at the actual design that we have managed to create inside Figma, this is it. I mean, it's not perfect and we could reprompt it at least one more time to, for example, fix the text alignment on the left. But since we haven't specified any design guidelines, I think Claude has done a pretty good job. So if you're going to play with Figma plugin, definitely add your own design and see what it can do. If you ever had issues with LLM responses, like giving you outdated answers, or maybe it was hallucinating because it wasn't able to find what you were looking for, I strongly suggest you give Context 7 a go. It automatically pulls the latest documentation when Claude is working with external APIs. And because the number of APIs and libraries are growing every day, you are most likely to be able to find what you were looking for. Large language models are only trained with the data up to a certain date. So if something has been created beyond that point, they won't be able to understand it. And that's where the Context 7 will help. If you have any outdated code examples that have been created beyond that point, this will be able to look into the latest documentation and fetch the updated data. Similarly, if it was hallucinating with some APIs that don't exist, with Context 7 you should be able to fall back to the documentation and fetch the latest signature. There are 2 different ways how you can install it. You can either use it in a CLI and as a skill, or you can register an MCP server. And it's also recommended to generate your own API key to increase the rate limit. Let's give it a quick test. Let's say I wanted to ask a question about this Vercel library. First, I'm making sure it does exist, and then I'm going to Claude Code and asking, can you check Context 7 what version of Node does latest Vercel library uses? And after some time, I get this answer back, and I know this is correct because I have compared this with documentation. And in the past, it would give me answers that were pretty outdated because the LLM has been trained on the outdated website. Playwright is a web automation and testing framework created by Microsoft. It can be used to drive any browser and as a tool for AI agents. In order to use it for Claude Code, it can be used as a CLI or can be registered as an MCP server. Writing UI test script manually can be incredibly boring. Playwright can automatically navigate your app, it can wait for the network to idle, and it can take automated screenshots to validate the things that you're trying to test. So I was able to install it inside my Claude Code instance. And using the browser navigate, you can direct to any URL. You can also take a screenshot of that URL. And if you have any form data to fill in, you can also use this to automatically fill in the data. And the browser click allows you to click the button and see if you can progress through navigation. Next on the list is a plugin that acts as an orchestration layer for Claude with a strict framework that forces the Claude to break massive projects down phase by phase. When you work on very large projects, the AI can get confused in the back half of its context. GSD forces extreme discipline. Every time it executes new portion of the plan, it uses completely fresh context window and sub-agents to prevent spaghetti code. When working on a new project, there are 6 different commands that you need to be aware of. The first one is called initialize. That's where you ask your initial questions, you do the research, you gather the project requirements, and you create the overall project roadmap. With this in place, we go to the discuss. That's where we capture our design decisions. Things like project layouts, API signatures, potential error handling, as well as the project data structures. So basically you discuss the overall project plan from the design perspective. Once that's in place, we go to the plan. Plan allows us to research, plan, and verify in the loop until we're actually happy with the plan. With the plan in place, we now can execute, and the actual execution work happens inside the sub-agents. Each agent has its own context and its own atomic commit. What that really means is that you can walk away from the computer and you will come back to a clean Git history with all the changes completed. So once the execution is done, we can verify, and this will verify the build and make sure that nothing has been broken. In case something is broken, it will create a plan to fix, and it will go back to the execute to fix the problem. So once the verification is done, we can then ship the feature, and that means the phase 1 would be done. So the step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 can be repeated again for the next phase until the actual project is completed. Previous plugin main role was to prevent hallucinations during long context sessions. With superpowers, we enforce strict engineering discipline and test-driven development. It's a complete software development methodology for coding agents, built in form of reusable skills with some initial instructions so that agents know how to use them. And the whole idea of this plugin evolves around the reusable library of skills that allows you to do testing, debugging, and collaboration. When adding new features using this plugin, everything is done using test-driven development. So that means the test is written first, and then we write some code to pass the condition of that test. When it comes to debugging, we can either debug existing code base if we're trying to fix an existing problem, or we can do the verification before completion when the feature has been added and we just want to check that it's working as expected. When it comes to collaboration, we can either brainstorm and refine the initial design. We can come up with the detailed implementation plan, batch execution with checkpoints to ensure that we're doing it step by step. And this is done using concurrent agent workflows. We can also do code reviews, work on the separate branches, and merge the code changes into the main branch.